Alright, so I'm going to show you guys how to do a really quick proof by doing a rubbing off of your carved block. So you can use any number of things to do this. Has to be something that you can put some pressure onto, so things like marker, any type of wet media, that's not really going to do the trick for you. But if you have something like, let's say, litho crayons, if you have charcoal, graphite sticks are really good for this. I'm also going to go ahead and try a couple of things that I'm not sure about, like oil pastel and chalk pastel, just kind of see what works here for us. So to get started, you're going to have your block that's already carved. I cut all the negative space off of mine, and I like to do this so I have a clean margin, but to each their own. So I'm going to go ahead and just place some thin paper over top of this. So if you have newsprint at home, that'll work. I'm just using printer paper, but I'm going to place this, and I'm not doing anything with registration right now because I'm simply checking that my image quality is what I want it to look like when I start printing. So I'm going to keep one hand kind of in place to keep my paper from shifting around. Another option you could have, if you would like to tape your block down to your table and then put a strip of tape on one edge of your paper so that you ensure nothing moves around, that's an option. But this is giving me an idea that my block is carved nicely. So from here, put that one aside. That was with the litho crayon. With graphite, it's going to be a little bit more challenging unless you have a graphite stick, but it's the same nature. Using the side of your graphite. Softer graphite is better for this, but again, use what you have. So there we go. Same business, right? Cool thing, they're identical because we're using a matrix. As I'm going to go in and test out maybe layering a little bit with some oil pastels, kind of see if we can get something that's a little bit more visually engaging. So I have two brands here. I have one that's a little bit more of a, not high end, but just nicer. And these are like the student grade, just things that I have laying around my studio. And I'm going to go in first with a lighter color and take off some of this paper so that I can access the side of the drawing media. Because again, I don't want to draw with the point of it. That's just going to be more work. But I'm going to go ahead and take the side of this and start to do a rubbing. All right, it's actually turned out pretty nice. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to move my paper a little bit, maybe change my orientation of my block. I'm going to go in with a color that's slightly darker. I think with a lot of this stuff where you're working with any type of color, especially if it's media that can transfer onto itself, I like to work from light to dark. So if I'm going to work from like yellow to red to blue, I'm going to go with whatever the actual value of the hue is. So for me, I would like to move from yellow to red to blue, because that's just the logic that makes sense to me. But again, play around with what you have, see what works. All right, so now we have something that's a little bit printerly. Got some overlaid information, and I'm going to end, we'll do something else a little bit more in the negative space. So from here, I'm going to end with blue. I'm going to try not to cover up some of the more interesting things that I have going on here, but instead establish a little bit of pure hue out in the negative space and try to see if I can get some color interaction happening where there's already layering. Moving my hand. And there we go. Something different. Keep this in mind for lockdown prints as well. What else could you do this with? Do you have something else that's different than a relief matrix that you could do rubbings on? yeah, brainstorm a little bit. But this is the way that I like to proof at home. Don't need any ink. There's no cleanup with this. And you can really use any type of drawing media that you have around your house. Try colored pencil, try Crayola crayon, try anything that you would normally use as a dry drawing product. Go ahead and give it a shot.